Welcome to another JavaEE tutorial. I want to start today with an announcement that I'm providing all of the source code that you've seen me working on as a series of commits to a public Git repo, and that link will be on GitHub. You can see the link to the GitHub page in the description of this video. And just to give you a quick overview, for those of you who are not familiar with Git, I've created a series of commits, and each commit matches exactly the code that I had at the end of that video. So at the completion of tutorial 1, this is what the code looked like. At the completion of tutorial 3, this is what the code looked like. And at the completion of tutorial 4, this is what the code looked like. So all you have to do if you were about to start tutorial 5, you would just look for the code at the end of the last lecture, click this number over here, and then you can click Browse Files. And now you're looking at the code as a snapshot, and you can click Clone or Download, and you can just download the whole project as a zip file in that state. So that way you can find out what your code is supposed to look like, and if you had problems with it, you can sort of compare it to yours. So that's all on that for now. Now let's get to something much more interesting. First, start by deleting math.java and the ping resource that we had from before, because we're not going to be working on these APIs anymore. We're going to be creating a new API. Now remember, it doesn't actually matter where you put your class or what package it's in, as long as it has that path annotation. What we're going to be doing today is building a simple REST API that returns the age of someone given their name. And I'm going to call this Ages API. It doesn't actually matter what you call it. And don't forget to put path above your class name. Now, last time we built some URLs that looked like this. We'd have something along the lines of ages, question mark, name equals Bob. Now, this works, and you can do this, but it's not always the most elegant solution, and sometimes you might want to have something like this, ages/Bob. So if you want to do that, we need to use something that's very similar to Python's formatted string reader. And all you have to do is create a variable by putting curly braces around a string. So in this case, we're going to look up people by their name. So I can just call this name, and I'm going to add a variable given name, so the name that our API was given. And then all I have to do to actually get the value out of the URL is provide an annotation, PathParam, and there are actually a couple of different ones called PathParam. The import you want is javax.ws.rs.pathparam, just like this. And then all you have to do is use the same value in here as you put in between your curly braces here. Now, in order to have a list of values to actually retrieve, we need to create some sort of small repository or database of the names. So for that, we're going to use a map, and we're going to use, it's going to be string integer ages, and import map. And don't forget to create a public constructor, an empty constructor specifically, that initializes this, and ages.put Bob. Larry, And now we have some ages in there. Now all we have to do is put a get annotation and then public integer, and I'm going to use the object form of integer in Java because we want to be able to return null. Because if we're using just plain int, then any age that we look up that we don't have a value for will just return a 0, and that looks like a real number, so we want to return a null. Get age, and all we have to do, since just by going to this URI or this URL, they will put the name value into the given name field. All we have to do is to return ages.get given name. And what this will do is it will look up whatever they put after the slash in our little map, and then it will return the integer value, or it will return null because that's the defined behavior of a map. So in order to actually check this behavior and run it, go to your terminal, run maven clean Wildfly-Swarm run, and while that's running, I want you to actually go ahead and open another terminal window, and we're going to use the curl command. So don't worry too much about it, but I'm going to do curl, and then I'm going to put a -i. That way it will show me the code that the server is returning along with the response. And then I'm going to do HTTP localhost 8080/ages/Bob. Alright, and we got the value that we put into our map, which is 25. And all these lines above it are just the response codes from the server. So let me show you that command without the I, and you just get the value. But we want to show it with the I because these response codes tell us some important information. The 200 OK means that everything went well, there were no errors on the server. Now let's try asking for a value that's not in our map. Let's do James. So we actually got a different response code, which was 204, no content. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with HTTP response codes, we'll be talking about those a little more in depth as we get further into this. But for now, just know that there are lots of them, and you can actually look them up by just Googling HTTP response codes. Now, what we want to do is, let's say somebody doesn't know what names are in the little database, and they want to know who they can look up. So they go to this URL right here, just the ages, and they don't put a name in. They actually just get this nasty 404 not found. Well, why is that? Since our API is kind of on this URL, right? Well, our API is sort of bound to that, but it's actually bound to this URL, which is this URL plus something else here. And without that plus something else there, it doesn't know to route it to our code. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to change our code so that we bind it to the ages URL. So in order to do that, I'm going to delete this from the path on the class level, and I'm going to add it to the class, or to the method level. And then, just as we did with query params, I'm going to inject it directly into the method. Name, string, given name. And then I can delete that from the class level. Since that's no longer the concern of the whole class, that's now just the concern of that particular method. Okay, now we want to show a list of all the people that they can look up in our database. So all we're going to do is we're going to create another get, we're going to return a string, which is a comma-separated list of all of the people that they can get. Get people list. And we're just going to return, and this is a wonderful JavaEE thing, string.join, separate them with a comma, and then ages.keyset. And so the keys in this map are all of the strings that we use to look up all the items in the dictionary. So let's see if this works. Let's go back to our server, kill it, and restart. Okay. Now let's try that URL that we just did, which was the ages. And keep in mind, in the terminal, if you're new to it, you can usually press the up arrow key to get back to the last command that you ran. So in this case, I'm just going to do that to get the last command, then hit enter. Now you can see from before we got a 404 content length of 0, so that means there was nothing in the response. This time we got a 200 OK, and we got a little list, Bob and Larry. And if we add more people to our ages map, then we just add all of their names to that. And now the person who didn't even know Larry was in the database can go, oh, okay, let me get Larry's age. There we go, and we get it, 35. All right, that's all there is to using PathParam. And again, keep in mind that PathParam works just like QueryParam on any primitive type, but also string. So thanks for watching, and we're going to get into a little more nitty-gritty next time.